Alright, those just coming in. Make sure and log in with the login on the board and start up Xcode on your computer when you get logged in. Alright. Week 4. Last week you'd have gotten GitHub created. If you've not yet sent me your GitHub username, do so by midnight tonight so I can add you to our GitHub iOS course we have in here called CIS280, which if I had your name, I've already invited you. If I didn't have your name last night by like 8 o'clock or something, I did not invite you because I didn't have your username. So make sure and submit your username, your GitHub username, by midnight tonight so I can basically give you access to, read and write access to the 39 repositories that are in here. And the repositories are for the in-class exercises we do, homework, as well as other apps that I put in there from prior semesters that might help you in your final app. And so we got stuff like an iOS boot camp, a sprite kit game, bouncing ball app, drawing a line, circle, rectangle, or triangle, find me, fire chat, help me please, image print, my video app, chat example app, multi-view app, my gauges, it shows a dynamic gauge kind of app, let's see, my location now, nature photos, Swift, notification chat, simple Swift shoot 'em up game, spinning object, tab example, USB memory maze. This one's actually on the App Store. Look at that one. So anyway, I'll add more as we go on, but there's more than 39. These 39 you guys have full access to those repos. There's 215 repositories in iOS course, and a lot of them I just filtered through and added for you to have full access to. And so even after the semester, you'll still have access to these repos. And I'll show you tonight how you can fork them, how you can create a repo easily without using the GitHub app, stuff like that. Okay. And tonight we're going to be creating a master detail app. We're looking at a finished product first and then tweaking it a little bit to show you how the master detail app works. And basically master detail, you'll see in a second, is an app that basically has, for phones anyway, it's generally when you first show, the app first shows, it shows a master, which is a menu, and then you tap on the menu item and it goes to detail. For iPads, like landscape mode iPad, master detail will have a menu on the left that can actually collapse and expand, kind of expand and collapse both. A lot of games have those, both collapse and expand menus to take up more real estate. But master detail is a pretty popular design for apps. The way I've always developed all apps in mobile app development is started from the single view environment, which is the most basic app template you can create, and then add in accordingly what you want to be added to that. Okay, so we add this. Take out this stuff here. Okay, well that's loading. Let me go over tonight's stuff we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at initially what views are. We'll be doing the master sites or my sites in class. Reading is 25 through 30. Notes. And so we'll do the my example, my favorite site example. We'll download it and run it, and then lab time I'll have you manipulate that one with your own images and websites and recompile it and show you how to submit that to, or first fork it in GitHub, download it, and then upload it into your environment. It's going to take a while to compile this. All right. So, we did. Okay, this one would be good. Start with. Okay, so in Xcode, we'll be playing with it tonight some. Up on the left side of Xcode when you run it is the files that you see when you create a project or open an existing. The second pointer is a simulator, and this one has iPad Air, but it could be iPhone 8, could be your own device. In the middle is a canvas of all the different views, and the views refer to these here. All different views. In this example here, it's a master detail view. It's got a navigator controller on it, a split view controller, and two table views. On the right side is properties. So if I was to click on, let's say this had a button here, I tap on a button over here to see the property for the button. Down here on the bottom left is your object library that has in everything from view controller down to labels and buttons and text boxes that you can add. You can even add in there snippets of code, objects, other media. So in a view controller, you've got the view controller itself, which is the root object of the page, the app page. And on a view controller, you can have a navigation, you can have a table view, a tab bar, a split view, a page view, and a GL kit would be like for gaming. So when you first create an app, like a single view app, which is the most popular, you'll see something like this when it starts up. You'll see on the left side a detail split view, and you can click on that. And then on the right side, today's Swift anyway has a thing called the main storyboard. You click on the main storyboard, you're going to see everything on the right side. And what I mean by everything, all these objects are all view controllers that either are a menu or they're actual objects where the items are being loaded or being viewed. So navigation control manages a stack of view controllers to provide a drill down interface for hierarchical content. Navigation can be tab navigation. Navigation can be master detail navigation. The master details, kind of like what I talked about earlier, where you fire up an app and you have a menu of items. You tap on those menu of items, it goes to detail. And you've all played with apps like that. And then tab apps, you know what those are. You click on each tab and it goes to a different page or a different view. Table view. Table view allows you to do things like this, where you start at the left side with an item on a master. You tap on that, go to another item, which technically it's a master as well. And then the third item to the right is actually detail. Okay, so you have master, master detail, detail of the final selection. So you can have subs of masters like this to call. Generally, in most apps, you're going to have at least two. You're going to have the first one there, like the Bay region. We'll say the second one. The second one, and then the third one. For most apps, you'll have the two-tiered master detail. The nice thing about that is it's pretty self-explanatory to users. When they see something like this, they're already well trained, I guess you would say, on what a master detail app is. Pretty a lot of apps use it that way. Tab bar. Tab bar allows you to, at the bottom of your app, have some type of modes, like maybe in this example here, you can tap on a different icons and it would go to a different page. So world clock would go to maybe timer, stop clock, and something else. Those are technically the tab bars. And up to, I think I told you this, but if I didn't, I'll tell you now. Max tabs you want from Apple is required at 5. If you have more than 5 tabs, it's going to give you an ellipsis to go to another set of tabs. So when you're designing your app ideas, keep it within a 5-tab idea if you can, if at all possible. Sometimes you can't, but try to do it. If you're creative enough, a lot of times you can. Split view. The split view goes into the 2 panes of information. The first pane has fixed width, and then the second pane fills the remaining. So this example here is like a mail client, where regardless of how it's turned, the master, you'll notice, of landscape is docked always. On portrait, it kind of has ability to collapse and expand. Page view, a lot like a magazine, the page view controller, and it's used for books, magazines, reference guides, stuff like that. And then the GL kit, or the gaming kit now that's in Swift and Xcode, allows you to do not only 2D but even 3D rendering. So the example we're going to do tonight is it looks like this on an iPad anyway. You'll notice on the left is the docked detail, or the master, and you tap on the mall, and then it shows the mall on the right. You tap on biking, it shows a Rockford bike shop on the right. Google shows a Google website on the right in details. So a user can select objects from a list of objects and inspect those selected objects. The master interface displays a collection of objects, and the detail interface implements the inspector of those objects. So when the user selects something in the master interface, a master menu, the detail is updated, whatever row they tapped on. So like tonight, when you tap on a row, it's going to have an array of objects, an array of the image that's on that row, and the array of the website that's on that row, and actually 3 arrays, and a third array is an array of the name that's on that row, which is going to be mall, biking, and Google. The mobile objects are selected, which in master detail sometimes you can, most of the times they aren't. Typically it's a one object thing. you can then have a more richer detail view. And Notes and Photos app is a good example of master detail. So let me kill that. All right, cool. That's fine, right? So this is what it's going to look like when we're done with it. When I have you download it in a second. I'm going to walk you through all that first. So this is a master detail app called My Favs. We're going to download in a second. I'll show you how to do it and create your very first repo. You'll notice on this app it has 3 menu items. Turn off the other one, so it's hard to read that sometimes. So the top one is mall, and then bike, and then Google. Mall, biking, and Google. The new thing I've added to this one, the master detail, is the images on each one of the master menus. And the right side here is called right detail. I put in there the 2 greater than symbols, so the user knows to tap on it. So when they tap on the master, any one of the masters, it then goes to the detail. You'll notice the detail has in it the name of the object I tapped on, which is mall. And the very first time in the simulator when this runs, it takes a while to not only run the simulator, but to load the app the first time, load the website the first time. So this is going to Cherryville Mall website. We'll go back and do biking. Biking is now at the title of the title bar. And now it's going to show a biking website here. And then last Google, it's just going to go to the Google website. So this is the master. This is the detail. And there is ways we'll show you tonight in this step-by-step how to create a master detail easily within Xcode, and how to bring in your own images for each one of your menus. And there's really 3 arrays in this master detail. There's an array for the images, there's an array for the name, and then there's an array for the websites. Okay? And you'll see that in the code in a second. So just remember, images, name, URL. 3 in total. And what I find out better when I'm doing this is to show you not only how it runs, but then secondarily I'll show you the code behind, and then I'll have you create a new GitHub on your computer, and we'll upload this file to there when we're done. There's 2 ways to submit things to GitHub, by the way. One is through the app called GitHub, the downloaded version, which works. It does work. The problem with that is if you're wanting to work on your program anywhere in the world on any computer, you have to download the app, you have to log into the app, you have to sync the app with your computer, then you have to clone it, download it to your desktop or whatever, and then open it up, which I've done that for years. But I found out it's easier and more efficient to just download the zip file on GitHub, work on it. When I'm done, I literally just drag all the files that I just worked on back into GitHub and drop it, and it uploads everything, and then I save it as a version and commit it, and then it gives me a check set number. The first check set we'll do tonight will be check set 1, then check set 2, then check set 3. Check set 1 is going to be when you create the repo. Check set 2 is going to be when you take your code tonight that I have you download and upload it into your GitHub repo. And then check set 3 is when you're going to make a few changes on GitHub and then check it in. So I found out over the years teaching this, even though the steps you read on GitHub has you download the client, which does work, by the way, if you have a static Mac and you're only working on that one device. I find it's quicker or easier to teach somebody how to do it the latter way, which is just drag and drop in your code each time, because GitHub's smart enough to know if I download a zip file that I worked on yesterday from GitHub and I only change 1 line of code, and I upload everything in that folder again to GitHub, it knows I only changed one file, and it tells me that when I check it in. So it literally checks every line of code that you have in your repo when you check that in. Does that make sense? So drag and drop, creation of repo, and then from that point on, drag and dropping it. That way, you don't have to worry about, because sometimes, especially here on campus, I know, the GitHub app is kind of clunky with our network, and dragging and dropping just works much more efficiently, I believe, when you're doing it, especially with our network and just the way it works, or doesn't work, however you want to look at it. Okay, so if you look on the overhead, I'm going to go over this really first on the GitHub side, and then I'll go over on the Xcode side. Then we'll have you guys create a repo. So while I'm doing all this, if you've not created your GitHub account yet, it would be a good time while I'm talking here to create your GitHub account, because you're going to need it when we do the in-class. It only takes a few minutes to create a GitHub account if you've not created one yet. I think I had you guys use your S number, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Your S number @ and I had some students ask me if they could use an existing GitHub. You can definitely do that if you want to. It's up to you. All I need for you to do, though, by midnight is make sure that you've submitted that GitHub in week 3, your GitHub username. Okay? So let me go ahead and show you here what it looks like on the repo side of things. So this is the one I did last, 17 hours ago. I updated this. You can see this, most of the files. Some of this one was originally 10 months ago. Then this document was a year ago. And the way I do most of the repos in GitHub is I have a document or a PDF in there that shows you exactly what to do to get the end result of what I just created. And inside of this, I'll go into the My Faves. And you're always going to have in all your apps a delegate. And for master detail, you're always going to have a master and a detail file. And then every app has what's called an info plist, which has things like security and things like that. Like an example on this one, there is built in, because we go to a website, this little key that had to be added in to allow for NS app transport security, which allows for the internet to be used in the app. And you'll learn all about that this semester. I'm going to start out with the Word document just to show you what it looks like, because we're going to do the in-class and just kind of preview it. I'll have you guys make some changes, upload it to your repo, and you're going to replicate it for your homework basically when you're done, and you're going to make your own favs app. But it's easier to do it this way. I think it makes more sense to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on that My Faves doc and go over that. And if you already have GitHub, you can go along with me if you want on that link and download it like I'm doing, and click on that myfaves.docx. Because it might be easier to read on your Mac than maybe on the overhead here. Or you can just watch it on the overhead, and then we'll do it all together at the same time. And by the way, just like any IDE interface when you do development, there's quirky things you got to learn, and I'll teach you some of those tonight, especially when you're downloading somebody else's code. There's certain things you might sometimes have to strip out or get rid of or whatever, and I'll show you all how that works. Still thinking. While that's loading, on the simulator, you'll notice on the overhead, the simulator does allow you to not only preview the app after you've installed it, so you could shut Xcode down and just run the app from the simulator, just like you would on a normal device, and it would run just fine on that simulator. And if you tap this home button, it'll go right back to that page. You can also tap and hold an app on a simulator and delete it like you could on a normal iOS device. You can move apps around, like I can move this, click on this and move it inside a folder if I wanted to. So anyway, it's just like having an iOS device but in a simulated mode. Okay, it looks like we're finally open here. We don't need dictionary K, I guess. All right, so let's see here. So as you can see on the Word document, and all the repos will have this that we do in the in-class, has a screenshot of the app first, and it talks about a master detail, great for apps that need a menu display functionality, and apps where menus can grow and shrink. I just got through doing one for a company. I think they want to convert a hard copy textbook, about 300 pages, to an app. They also wanted in their videos and PDFs, and so what I ended up having to do was I created a master detail, but all the content is on a PHP website that sucks down to the phone every time, and which works, but the master is driven by a JSON file on the website in PHP, and all the contents of the pictures, images, videos are all from a PHP website on the back end. The user doesn't see that. But what's nice about that is I can, the users that manage the app can update content and things easily within the PHP website, and they don't have to update the app. And I do recommend that. Anytime you're creating a mobile app, the pages need to be updated often. Make that page a web view to another website. Okay, like a PHP website or just a normal website or whatever that somebody can update. That way you're not having to update the app every time you have to update content. That makes sense? Okay, so on the first, and we'll do this for your take home, we'll do this and we'll get started on it as far as the creation of this anyway. So when you created a brand new project, like it says here in the document, we're going to select a master detail because it's going to give us everything we need initially to start out. And I named it My Faves. We'll save it to our desktop. We'll uncheck the upside down one, leave everything else checked, which is portrait, landscape left, landscape right. That way you can turn your phone or iPad and it'll show up accordingly, those menus. So when you first get into the master detail, once you've created and named it, you tap on the main storyboard and select it, and then we'll delete the label that's on that detail that's on every default master detail app. Then we'll add a web view to that detail and drag it and release it right onto the detail page like this here. We'll also on there, once we add that UI web view, we'll add some constraints on step 5. Step 6, we will create a name for that web view called website, which I'll show you how to do here. Then we'll select the standard editor again, go back into the step 7. I have you start looking at the actual code on GitHub, which what I've done is on all the repos is in the code I create comments, right? 2 slashes, comments, and I have 10 steps on this one that you just read through the code, tells you what to get rid of, what to add. If you just follow the steps on both the master controller.swift and the detail controller.swift, the app's going to work. Okay? If you don't follow the steps or you miss a step, it won't work. All right? And best way I can tell you to get it to work is start over again from step 1 all the way down. And if you've made a lot of changes and you don't quite know where, it might be easier just to start from scratch, honestly, because it's not a lot of steps that you have to do. There's 10 steps on the master detail controller, and there's like 3 or 4 steps on the detail view controller. Really not a lot of steps. 2 steps. And then once you follow the steps on the detail and master controller, rename the titles, add code to the info list for transport security, which is needed since iOS 9 for us to load a web page, external web page in the app. So I'm going to actually do what it says here. I'm going to just show you the code in GitHub. I'm going to start with the master view controller, and you'll be able to see here when I get to raw mode. When you click on raw mode, by the way, in GitHub, it gives you a really nice view, I think, of that file. A lot nicer view anyway. And I'll try to expand it here to where you can see it a little bit better. Is that okay back in the back there? Cool. So you'll notice here, this file was created originally in September of 2017. I updated it last night. Just made sure all the comments look good, it ran and everything. But I left everything in here on purpose when I do these comments. So you'll see what your code looks like when you create a master detail, what you need to get rid of, what you need to add. So you'll notice in step number 1, it says comment out var object line. That's literally going to be in your code. Var objects equals any. That's going to be there. You're going to comment it out. And I have some students ask me, should I put your comments in my code? If it's easier for you to do that, but at least put the number. So comment 1 and don't put anything in there. That way you kind of know, okay, I fulfilled 1. If something goes wrong, you can say, okay, I fulfilled 1, I fulfilled 2. Oh, I missed 3. I totally missed 3. I went right from 2 to 4. Something like that. That way you don't have to type everything in. And the beauty of GitHub is you literally don't have to type anything in if you don't want to, really. You could just copy and paste and run. Really, you could. But what's the fun in that? And so when you're first learning, I encourage you to follow the steps, do what it says. Then as you understand what it's doing and why it's doing it, then when you're in a pinch and you need something, you'll know what repo to go to create an app to do what you need it to do. Make sense? There's no sense in typing things in just to type things in if you already know where the repo is of a tool you created or used a year ago or 5 years ago. Does that make sense? So don't feel bad about that. The famous Steve Jobs saying was, the best software is not software that's borrowed but stolen software. And so you're literally sometimes stealing from yourself, I look at it, or from other code examples you find online. That's okay. That's fine. There's no sense in reinventing the wheel if somebody's already done it. There's really no, if you're prideful about it, I guess that's one thing, but you just get over that hump, right? And get whatever it is you need to get done, because I've been a developer now for 30 years, and you believe me, you'll have enough work to do. You will have to create a lot of stuff on your own and figure it out on your own. So don't feel bad at times where you have to find some code either you've done yourself in the past or your friend's done, or you find it on GitHub or wherever, Stack Overflow. Don't worry about that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with that. That's the first, I guess, hurdle sometimes new programmers have to get over is, and I get it, you want to understand what you're doing first, which that's why I do this step by step. Once you understand it, and say a year from now you have to do a master detail app that's a lot like this one for a client or for yourself, you'll be like, oh, I know exactly where to go. I got the good foundation, change some stuff, done. Right? Go on to the next project. Because you will have, if you start doing this for a living, you will have more than enough to do, believe me. You'll have more than enough to do. Does that make sense? So kind of relieving that pressure off of you if you feel that already, or that guilt, I guess it might be. Don't have it. Don't feel it. And those of you who've been in IT long enough know that, again, a lot of times, whatever project you're working on, you're going to need help. Ask for help. Work with other people that maybe have already done something like that, and collaborate. And you'll get your chance to pay back. Believe me, it'll happen. Happens all the time to me. So, make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. So number one, comment out the var objects. Number two, declare and initialize three arrays. Didn't catch that one. It's 3 arrays. So I added the photos to this one. The first array, an array, if you don't know already, and again, the best way I've learned over the years to teach any programming language is like I'm teaching it now, which is project-based learning. It's a project completed. You're learning how it works, tweaking it, manipulating it, figuring it out, massaging it to go, okay, I get it. Now I can do something with this. I get how this works now. Okay? So arrays for all languages are the same. Swift is no different. It starts with the number 0 and goes to whatever. Right now we're creating 3 arrays, all of them. The first one's an image array that's totally empty. And it's starting with a var, and we know from the first week and 2 weeks that a var is an object that can be changed. Technically this then could be a let variable because we're not going to change it. But I created it as a var because you'll see in a second why, because I add stuff below to it. But I could add it right here in the line, but I don't. So first one is for photos, and the type of declaration for this is explicitly a UI image, which is an image file, is all it is. It can be a JPEG image, it can be a PNG image. Now I will tell you, Swift works with both, JPEG and PNG both. So there's really no recommendation there. All I recommend to you is when you're creating your images, especially for menu items, to generally make them square in nature. Okay, the ones I use aren't, but I'll show the code I created fixes it for you. But generally, when you're creating images, you want to create a square image because it takes up less real estate on that menu. And so anyway, just remember that. And then favs list of favs is basically going to be website, and it's a string right now, and it's empty, and it's an array. Next is fave details. It's going to be the name of the menu item, which is presently, I'll fire this up here just to show you visually. The images right here are the list of photos. The male biking Google is the fave details. And then the list of faves, I take it back, fave details is the URL. List of faves, I believe, is the name. We'll see here in a second. I believe that's correct. One of the two. Going on down. That's number 2 then. Number 3, comment. Comment out below line. So you'll comment out all this stuff here in your code, which basically what this is for is by default when you create a master detail, it gives you an edit button. You're getting rid of that. You don't want the edit button. You don't want people to add stuff to your menu. You want to manipulate that menu and take it over, basically. Okay? Because when you first run a master detail, you can actually play with it and add in as many menu items you want to when it's running, which is kind of cool to see how that works and everything. But when we're going to live environment, we comment that out. It also comments out the split view information for the add button and the edit button. Number 4, now we're going to add some stuff to the arrays. So the list of photos, I add in 3 images, mall, which is a PNG, bikes, which is a JPJ, and Google's, which is a PNG. Second array, which is a string, and this is how you declare a string array, in quotes, separated by commas. Image array is like this. You'll notice this is one item in a UI image array. UI image named, and you have to put the exact name. It doesn't matter where this image is, by the way, even though I put it in a folder called images. It could be anywhere in your files on the left side, and Swift's going to find it, if that makes sense. It's going to find it. Just make sure the naming's correct and the extension's correct. It won't be able to figure that one out if you don't make that right. And by the way, this little exclamation point here means that this could be explicitly optional. It's an optional explicit, meaning it has to have that in Swift 4. If you don't put it in there, it'll tell you to put it in there. meaning it could be empty because we declared it empty initially. Next is list of faves, went over that, and then fave details. This is the one that has the websites. And notice it's just quotes with the URL separated by commas. And both of these arrays are strings. So anytime you want to do a string array, it's always like that. And you can have, you can have spaces in between. It could be, instead of mall, it could be Cherryville Mall. It could be, biking path. It could be, Google company, whatever. It doesn't matter as long as it's in quotes, separated by commas. Make sense? And then it's encapsulated with a left and right bracket. Next, this is code that's already there. The left split, that's in there for you. We leave that alone. The will appear, we leave that alone. The did receive memory warning, we leave that alone. And this is actually built into every app, by the way, when you create it. It's kind of like in Windows. You probably had this happen in Windows. I know I have. Even on my Mac, I've had it happen before. When you get low on memory or low on hard drive disk space, or the app's taking up all your memory, it'll say, hey, you're reaching the end of your resources here. Or in Windows, actually, it'll start actually putting red X's in your app. Like if there's any images, you might have seen that happen. And you restart the computer and you're good to go because you're basically using up all the resources. We don't mess with that. We let Swift take care of memory issues and memory warning. Next, number 5, comment out function insert new object. This is for when people would use the menu to add a new button, the add button up here at the top that we commented out, the add button, the insert new object function right here. That's the one we're getting rid of here in step 5. So select from the line a function insert new object to the right bracket, and I even put a comment in here that you use the shortcut command to comment out all the lines if you wanted to, but you don't have to. You can use just do it like this, double comments on every line. So you're just basically commenting out that whole function is what you're doing. Next, the segues. A segue in master detail is what it sounds like. You're going from the master and segueing to the detail page. And in that process, you need to bring some stuff over, right? So we already know we have 3 items here. We have mall, biking, and Google. So we can bring over an image, we can bring over the name, and we can bring over the URL. Those are the 3 items in each of those rows we know we have availability of, right? In code, we have it because we declared it. So let's look at the function here. It says here in this function, prepare for segue. And by the way, this is built in already, this line. This override function prepare, this whole function is built in already. We do add some stuff to it, but this whole function basically is to push it to detail. And so let's see here what's happening. If the index path is selected, is what this means. If they tapped on a row and selected it, if they tapped on it, it goes and does, sends a name over, sends a URL over to load in the web module. So all we're going to do here is we're going to replace the code that's in there in that if-let logic with this code. And I'll go over this line by line. The first one is grabbing the fave details and putting it in whatever index row. We'll say 0, which would be the first one, mall. And it's grabbing it from fave details, which remember fave details, if we go up higher, is the URLs. Fave details URLs, list of faves name, photos, photos. So it's grabbing on that one. Fave details a URL, putting it in an object. Just an empty object right now. Just remember that. The next let statement, constant, is controller. This one is pushing it segue to the actual file called detailview controller, which is actually in the code right here. It's pushing it to the detailview controller. Okay. Then we already have that declared now as controller now is a detailview controller, and it's going to be the one it's going to be sent to. Controller.detailItem equals object is any object. Object is any object. So if I go to my code here to show you, here's detailItem. DetailItem is any object, and it goes right there and sends that URL to that object, which is going to be used to load the website here. Next is going to push to the left navigation the name of that view or the master, which in this case is going to be my faves. So if I click on this, my faves, that's what's created. I can move this over on this line here. On the left bar button, which is right here, it's now going back to my faves, which is right here. Okay. Next one. Does it suppress the back button? Yes. We are suppressing the back button because we're using the left bar button instead and suppressing the back button. We're actually customizing it with the title of the master. Then lastly, the navigation item also has an object called title. And I want it to be whatever name that it is for the list of faves, which is going to be mall, Google, and whatever the other one was. So you'll notice mall, biking, and Google. So I tap on mall. Now that's right here. That's where this is coming from right here. The controller navigation.title. Controller navigation left item supplement is this. The detail item is what you're seeing here, the URL. Okay. Next, so that's number 6. Number 7 is when this page is initially loaded, okay, this page is initially loaded, it's going to have a default return count, whatever. And all this is doing here is returning the list of faves list, which if we go to the list of faves, it's the mall, biking, and Google. It's returning that as a menu, as an array in the table. Going down further. Oh, went too hard. Sorry. Then the function table view, number 8. Replacing this line of code. This is what's actually on each row of the cell, each row of the master. Okay? So what it's doing here is it's populating from that list of faves each cell on a row. The first cell I use is a text cell, which grabs a name of that row, which is going to be the first one, or 0 is going to be mall, then biking, then Google. That's where that line's coming from here. The let image, UI image, list of photos, it's going to grab this object, and this object, and put it in that spot on the row. Next one is populating that cell with that image. And I have in here a function called resize. Max width and height is 30. And if you go down to the bottom of the code, there's a new thing they've added in Swift 7 called extensions. And the nice thing about extensions are you can extend any object and manipulate it. Like the object I'm extending here is UI image. And I'm allowing to push 30 to that resize. And regardless of what the size of the image is, it's going to force it at 30 pixel by 30 pixel. And so that's what it's doing here. It's 30 pixel by 30 pixel. Now if I was to go in here real quick just to show you, since this app's running, and change something real quick, I'll change that value from 30 to, let's say, 50, which is a little bit bigger, and run it. It'll refresh and run here in a second. We should see a bigger image, hopefully, on the left side of those images that were brought in for the mall, biking, and Google. And this white page, by the way, that's coming up is a splash screen that we've not played with. So let's see, 50 went from 30 to 50. We can see a significant difference there. 30 seems to be a better size for menus, so I'll keep it at that. Refresh it. And put it back to 30. So this UI image is coming in and it's basically fitting that image, whether it's JPEG or PNG, doesn't matter, and it's returning it with the, and keeping the 30/30, keeping that context, and returning that scaled image back to that line, which is right here. So this line is resizing that image on each row to 30/30, max width height. The next one is the detailed text view, text label dot text equals, in quotes, 2 greater than symbols. That is these right here. Literally each row is going to have that, and that's called the detailed text label. So you'll notice the detailed text label is on the right detail of the main menu, the master. The next one to the left would be the, even though it's in the first instance here, the text label, it's the next one. And then the first one is UI image. So in order of precedence on this row, you've got image, and then you've got text label, and then you've got detail text label. Okay? Now let's look at the detail view. We've looked at the master one. I want to look at the detail. The detail view is not as much, but there's some stuff in here. Again, updated this last night and originally created last September. So first thing is the object for the website that's in there, which is an outlet. There's when you add an item to a view, whether it be a web view, a button, a label, they have to be an outlet of some type or an action. So you have IB outlet and IB action. IB outlet is pushing stuff out, right? It's displaying stuff. So when you think of a website, you think of pushing stuff. You think of something being pushed, right? When you think of a label, you don't type on a label. It's being pushed out. It's an outlet. Text box. What do you think the text box would be? You think is that going to be an outlet or an action? A text box. Hmm. Yeah, it could be both actually. What about button? IB outlet, IB action, or both? It could be both, yeah. So if you want to use it as a click action, it needs to be an IB action. If you want to use it to change the text of a button, you have to declare it as an IB outlet, and there's times you want to do both. So if I want to change a button text, I have to declare it as both an IB outlet variable with the same name as the IB action variable with the same name. And then I can manipulate it. So there's a website. That's added whenever this, I'll go there real quick to show you. Going to the main storyboard, which just takes a little bit to load, depending on everything else running on your computer. And I'll show you here while we're talking about that in the code, kind of visually how it shows here in Xcode, which I think would be important. Because we're really not naming any objects on the master side. We are on the detail side though. So let me go to detail. Okay, so if I click on this object here, which is a web view, notice that over here in my outline it actually highlights website. And go over here to the very right, which is the inspector, connection inspector. Notice it says website, and it's an outlet. But also notice in here There's actions to a web browser, which are what you're familiar with. Go back, go forward, reload, stop loading. Those are built-in actions for a website. Also, the fave details. You'll notice here on the fave details, it is not named because it's part of, in creation of this project, when you create a master detail, it adds that to the entire project. This detail is added. So what I mean by that is I'll come out. When you create a master detail, everything you see here is created upon project creation. Okay, this is the root of the master detail that controls. This is the very first object when the app runs. Let me show you what I mean by that. See over here where it says is initial view controller? I'm clicking on this one. That's the initial one. The user never sees that because it's behind the scenes. The user doesn't see this. The user doesn't see this because it's behind the scenes. This is the file needed for the master page, which is this one right here. And notice there's no name to that one because it's built upon the fly. But when I click on this one, there is a name for it called Master View Controller. That's that Master View Controller Swift we just looked at. This one doesn't have a name. Click on it. No class name. But if I click on the detail, it does. The Detail View Controller, which are over here. So there's Master, there's Detail. Those two are also created upon creation of the app. So going back to the actual web view. Web view. Again, this right arrow is a show the connection inspector, and I can click on the connection inspector per object, or what's cool is I can come in here and say I just on the detail want to see everything that's connected in the detail. And notice if I click on the details, it has in there the view, which is the main view of the app, of this detail that's created upon project creation, the website that we added. The relationship, it was created upon app creation when you select master detail. That's a relationship between the root object of the navigator that I showed you. If we go to the master scene, notice this one has a view, a relationship to the master. It also has a default created data source for the table that's loaded. Table and deli. This is automatically created on the master detail, by the way. You don't have to create that. So on the master side, you're literally manipulating code. On the detail side, you are getting rid of the label, changing the title, adding a UI web view, and that's it. So if we go back to the detail view, every time a view is loaded, there's a couple ways it can hit, a couple places it can hit. One is, if I click on the code here, notice I have a view did load, right? View did load is kind of like if you took C# or C++, like the main of Swift, okay? Remember in C++, if you took that, or JavaScript, you have an int main or a main area, that's view did load, okay? VB form load, okay? So when this page is hit, it's going to hit the view did load first. And inside the view did load, you'll notice it's only running configure view. If we go to configure view, that's right here. In this code, all I'm having to do is comment out the label, which is initially loaded on a master detail. You're commenting that out, and you're replacing this code here. You're adding actually this code here, which is if let my web view equals website, which is the URL or the module website. Basically what it's saying is it's declaring website as my web view is what it's doing. If there's content in a URL for the detail item, which it should have if they tapped on one of those, these, it's going to be a URL for mall, URL for biking, URL for Google. So detail item will be brought in as a string, but it'll be converted to a URL with what I've highlighted there. So URL string, detail view as string, brings in the URL. Then on every web call, you're going to have this. You're going to need a request, which is let request equals URL request URL. Also, one thing I want you to notice, when I click on URL with my mouse, notice how it highlights the one above, which is the first declaration of that. If I go down to the next one, it scales the pages to fit the web browser. So you'll notice when this page was ran, mall is now converted to a mobile app. If I was to take this same, phone and turn it now to the left, notice what happens. Your menu is now docked, like I talked about earlier, your master menu, and your detail is brought up. Now, if I want to, I can click on this and go full scale, go back to the master. So I can collapse it, I can expand it. So that's what's happening here. The scales pages to fit is working. So I'll take it back to rotate it right again, which goes back the way it was before. Next, this line loads the actual request, which is the URL. And again, the first time you load it in the simulator, it takes a little bit. So number one, comment out the label. Number two, replace the code, which is basically this if statement. And anytime I tell you to replace code or add code, use code logic basically for this is, if I put my mouse here on this row here, notice when I tapped on it the first time, see how that yellow highlighted up there? I don't know if you can see it. See how it highlighted this one right here? That's the part I need to type in, okay? Because it tells me, it knows in code, if that's the beginning, that's the end. And that's what I need to add. That's the whole statement. So I've got left break, right bracket, left bracket, right bracket. So there's two of them in there. Then, number three is change to object, change any object. So I think this is called any or something by default. You change it to just any object, and that's it. So 3 changes in the detail view, 10 changes in the master view. Now, the other thing you'll notice is I added these images. And in Xcode, the way it works is when you add images, I could have added these images right to the root of the project. But Xcode allows you to do a control click and create a new group, which is what I did here. And then once you create a new group, you can then control click and add files to that folder. And you'll see here in a second a dialog will pop up. When you're moving files into a folder, like you're going to do in a second, you'll need to make sure and check box this thing that says copy items if needed. What that's going to do is take any images I grab from my Mac and literally copy it into my project. If I don't do that, and I save my project and upload it to GitHub and go to another computer, the images are still going to be on that first computer if you don't click checkbox copy items if needed. Does that make sense? It's going to look for them in wherever it was you copied, wherever you brought them in from, if you don't check the copy. If you check the copy, though, it's going to move them into the actual project. Now, one thing I want to show you is inside that project, the folder for my images is not actually in there. Actually, it is in there, right there. And it puts it right in there, so when I add the copy, it put the folder right in there along with all the images I put in there. I'm not using all these images, by the way, but I left them in there just to show you can leave them in there. Also, there's a Word document in there that can be kept in there as well, and a zip file that can be kept in there as well. Okay? So make sure you do that. All right, cool. So let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and have you, now that we went through all of that, go to the for-in class and click on this link at the top where it says download my files from GitHub. And the first thing I'm going to have you do is, did everybody get logged into your to GitHub, or have a GitHub account? You have a GitHub account. Everybody has a GitHub account? Awesome. So with you on my page here, what I'd like you to do is log into GitHub. You'll have to come back to this page. Let's see if I can go back. 100%. There we go. So if you go to the very top, see I'm already logged in here with my little image there. So what you'll need to do is I'll log out just to show you. I'll come back to that, click on that, same link. So up here at the top, you'll just hit sign in, put in your username and password, sign in, it'll take you right back to that repo. So we're going to do that. Sign in to GitHub if you haven't already done so. Next thing I'm going to show you to do is fork this repo to your account. Just like if we were eating steak and I wanted some of your steak, I would take my fork and stick it in your steak and put it on my plate. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fork, and the contents of this repo will be forked over and placed in your account on GitHub for a new repo for you. And you'll play with that and download it and play with it and change stuff and do whatever you want to. Make sense? So is everybody logged into GitHub? All right, cool. The first thing I want you to do is, once you're logged into GitHub, make sure you're on My Faves. All you need to do is click on this fork right here, where my mouse is hovering. Click on the fork and choose. You'll only have one account, but I have a lot of accounts, so I'll choose another account here. Choose your account, which should already be chosen for you. Once you click on it, it starts forking it to that account. It just takes a few seconds to bring everything over. Now you can imagine if you had videos in there or a lot of images, it might take a bit, but you're done. You'll now have your username / myfaves2. It should show up that way anyway on your computer. Everybody got that? Cool. Next thing you'll do, and this is being video too, by the way, so if you didn't get that or you're just watching, you can watch the video later. Don't worry. So what you want to do now is come over here to the right where it says clone or download and click on the button there and go download zip. Because we're going to bypass the GitHub app, and we're just going to show you, I'm going to show you how I've been doing it recently, the last year. It's just a lot simpler than trying to mess with installing that app and getting it set up and signing in, and so much easier doing it this way. And by the way, you'll notice while that's being downloaded, it keeps all the commits that I've committed to this app from the beginning. So notice mine was updated recently, 18 hours ago. But we go at the very beginning. The first commit was September 11th, 2017. Then there was one November 7th, 27th. Then the rest of them were done the last couple days. Okay. So once that's downloaded, let's show you. We'll go to your download folder on the Mac. If you actually press your Control key on your keyboard, the very left key on your keyboard, and then click on this download folder here that I have highlighted on the overhead. Just left click on it once or just click on it with your mouse and select Open Downloads. It'll take you right to the Downloads folder. There's the one I just downloaded. It's timestamped today at 5:41. I'm going to double click on that file and the Mac will automatically extract it, create a new folder, and highlight it. And there it is right there, My Faves Master 2. I'm going to open that up. And I'm doing this right along with you guys. So once you've opened up that folder, you'll notice all the files are in there. When you're opening up an Xcode project, it always ends in the .xcode proj. So all you need to do is double click on that Marcus app.xcode proj. It'll always prompt us, by the way, warning you it was downloaded from the internet. Go ahead and say OK or open. And we're going to have to change some things in here for it to run correctly. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. I want to make sure everybody gets it up and running. While it's up and loading, initially it's going to do this indexing text. Just let it sit there. Don't do anything while it's doing that. It'll go a lot faster if you don't. Or at least I think it does. I don't think it really does. I think it's a mental thing for me. I tell myself that anyway. So I just don't touch it. Let it just keep loading until it's done indexing. So what it's doing is indexing every single solitary character in that project. Swift is going through it with a fine-tooth comb, figuring out the name of the file, where it's located, what it does, compiling it, seeing if there's any errors. It's doing all that at the same time. So it's indexing it. And depending on the size of the app, depends upon how long that indexing can take. The longest reason this will take is because the images. The images takes a while to load just because they're images, right? Once it's through, it should say succeeded, at a timestamp, okay, which this one was actually my original creation of this file, which was 11/27/17. But make sure it says succeeded. Everybody got that? Cool. Now, click on the Marcus app on the left side, like I'm highlighted to on the overhead. And we're going to have to change some things here in the middle, just so we can run it without error. The first thing we're going to change is we're going to change automatic manage signing. Because you have to have an account for this to occur. It has to be logged in with Xcode, which you don't have done yet. So we're going to uncheck that. That's it. Don't make any other changes, even though this little red thing down here says status, select a provision profile. You don't need to do that. Go up to the product menu, and go to clean. What we're doing now is we're cleaning any files that were downloaded that maybe need cleaned. Secondly, we're updating and recompiling everything after we've unchecked that automatic managed signing. And Xcode's pretty smart. Once you actually work on a real app for yourself or a client or a business, you will use that automatic managed signing because Xcode will create for you all of your profiles, app IDs, and certificates needed in the Apple App Store. That one reason I have to have all your guys' Apple ID is it'll create all of that for you automatically. And then you'll also have your own profile provision file, which will be just unique for that app. And the team will be Rock Valley College, and it'll create its own signing certificate. It does all that for you. But we don't need that because we're just going to run it as is. So once we've done that, now go ahead and hit the play button, or you can do a Command R, either one. The play button or Command R will do the same thing. It should say iPhone 8 Plus, I believe, or iPhone 8, something like that on your simulator right here. Does it say that for you guys? iPhone 8? Which is fine. It loads a little faster than an iPad. These will load an iPad environment too. Just iPad with more resources will take longer to load. Now, yours isn't going to be that fast, but I've already compiled mine once already. So yours might be a little slower, or it might not be. Hopefully, maybe it did go that fast. Every once in a while it does. Oh, it's still loading. Okay, that's all right. It takes about the first time whenever this loads a good 2-3 minutes because it has to install startup Xcode or startup iOS, just like if you were to start your phone from being dead, right? It's the same deal. That's what it's doing. So it's compiling it. You've already got it. Is that the one you downloaded? Here's going to be master 2. Well, close that one, whatever that one is, pull that out. Just make sure you get that down. And click on that Marcus app for me. Uncheck automatic signing. And then go to a product clean and a product build. Okay, it looks like we're about halfway there on some of your machines, and some of you are already loaded. And what we're going to do once this runs is I'm going to have you change some stuff. I'm going to change the menu. We're going to keep the images just for time's sake. We'll keep the images as they are, because while this is running, by the way, you can click on these images just to show you. There's no rhyme or reason, but I just downloaded these from the web. Every one of these images is a different size, but they're all square, the ones we're using anyway, except for this one here, which I'm not using. It's a rectangle. But you'll notice Google's is square, Mall's square, Home is square. Technically, you probably want them all to be roughly that size, probably, right there. You know, this one here is 138 by 119. So like a 138 by 138, something like that. Not going to really matter much because none of these are huge anyway. Here's a 512 by 512. That'd be fine too. And I'm not using that one, but I am using this one. We're using this one. We're using this one here. That's the mall. Yeah, Google Mall and bikes using that one. All right. Yeah. Okay, once it runs, you should then be able to hopefully click on a menu. Now, the first time you click on any menu, it's going to take a little bit for the web browser to load that first web page. After the first time, it should go lickety split. If you go back, hit My Faves, and click the other ones, hopefully. And here's what I want you to do, is you're going to go to the master view controller, and you're going to go to the array for the names. Right now, just change these names to something else besides mall, biking, and Google, just to show how it works. So I'm going to put in here, instead of mall, I'm going to actually put Cherryville Mall. Cherryville. But you don't have to do that. You can put whatever you want to in there. Cherryville Mall. For biking, I'm going to put Rockford Bike. And again, you can do whatever you want to on yours. And for Google, I'm going to do search engine. And even though this is running right now, right, I can do Command R again, or hit the play button, and I'll get this little prompt here. It says an instance always running. You just hit the stop button, and what it's going to do is terminate it and launch the new instance automatically, which shouldn't take long at all. And if you watch the simulator while it's occurring, you can actually see it installing the new app like you would on a normal iOS device and launching it, the blank pages, the splash screen we're not playing with, and going right to the new menu, which is Cherryville Mall, Rockford Bike, and search engine. Okay. After you've done that, you can now change the URL to something different besides Cherryville Mall, Rockford Bike, and search engine. And again, it can be whatever. It doesn't have to be matching the menu, just for practice anyway. So I'm going to do on Cherryville Mall, I'm just going to go msn.com. For bicycling.com, I'm going to do Rockford. Let's just do, I'll do Rock Valley. Rock Valley College. .edu. And then the last one, I'm going to change it from Google to Yahoo, different search engine. And then again, Command R it, hit the stop button, watch it compile, make sure everything's good. So as you can see, you're iterating, you're debugging, you're adding, you're changing on the fly. And then when you click on these, you should see the URL change from what you changed it to. There's my MSN. There's my Rock Valley College, and there's my Google or Yahoo. Make sense? And if you want to add more menus in here, it's just a matter of adding a new menu item. So if I want to come over here and add in I'm going to add a new UI image to my list. And I'm going to use the same image for right now, Google's image. And I'm going to add in, I'll just put Google on the last one. Just show you how easy it is to add it. And then I will add in a new URL. Just add a comma. Google.com. Let's do a Command R. Now we should have 4 items in there: Cherryville Mall, Rockford Bike, search engine, and Google. There we go. And try the new one, make sure it works. All right. So now what I want you to do, regardless of how much you got done or didn't get done with that, doesn't really matter. Because the main part of this is not only showing you how to run it in Xcode and make changes, but really having to do your very first check-in in using GitHub. So easy way to do it right now. What I'm going to have you do is go ahead and stop Xcode by hitting the stop button. And wherever yours is at, doesn't really matter because we're just doing this for practice. You're going to do this again between now and next week anyway. So click on Xcode and let's exit out of Xcode altogether. I've got two, and you want to do this every time too. Before you submit something to GitHub, you want to exit out of Xcode. That way it's not running. You don't have any danger in anything running. You should already, like mine, my root folder is still open, the downloaded folder. I'm going to keep that up in front of me, right? Because that's the files I'm going to actually bring over into GitHub. Now, one of the things you'll notice is this one was changed to today at 5:44. If I go into the My Faves, the detail view was changed, or the master view controller was changed today, and that was it. So 2 files. So I'm going to keep everything like this. Now watch this. It's pretty cool. I'm going to come over here and go to my new repo. You have to click on the repo name. Mine's called MyFaves2, which that's your name too. On there. Resize your image, resize your windows to where you see the folder on the right side of your project. You see your GitHub on the left side, and all you got to do is this right here. Watch. I'm going to take these files and select them all. And I can click anywhere in here, by the way, and just do a Command A. It'll select everything, and then a Command C. Or if I just do a Command A, I just want to select them all because I'm going to click and drag these over into GitHub. Now notice when I do this on the overhead, it gives me the prompt to drop these. And once I drop them, it actually starts adding them. You'll see 24 files it added. I'm going to expand my window again so you can see it added all those files. And what I'm going to have you do for your first commit is just put your initials and then the word update. So CK update, and then just click commit changes. It'll process those few changes that were made. And then lastly, I'm going to show you what's called the diff file, which shows you exactly what files were changed, and it will show you nothing else was changed once this processes. So this is a lot faster doing it this way, by the way, than again logging into the Mac client, which I've done for years. This is much quicker to do, I think. Okay, so let me show you something. If you click on your commits, you'll notice now your commits say, like mine, 11 commits, if you're doing this with me. So if I click on 11 commits, it has the one I just did. If I come over here to the right, this little file here, it looks like a whole bunch of weird numbers and letters, right? If I click on that, it's going to give me a diff view, left and right. The left is going to be basically the stuff that was taken away and added is in red, added is green. So you can see just by viewing it what was added, what was green. In fact, if you hover over the mouse, it'll say 7 additions and 4 deletions. 4 changed files occurred with 15 additions and 6 deletions. And I can go one by one and view it. Just scroll down like this. It tells me exactly what was deleted or what was updated. See that? And if I click on this link here, it actually goes right to the actual files, and I can drill down even further. Like this one says 11 lines were changed on the project file. On this plist file, 5 lines were changed. The master view controller, 3 lines were added, 2 were gotten rid of or updated, so 5 lines in total. But really that one doesn't make as much sense as this, just viewing it this way, I think. Because you can visually see what was changed and wasn't changed. In fact, if I go down further to the array, that's where you'll really notice a difference. So there's a new one I added. There's a new array in the list of faves that I added for Google. So you've officially created your very first repo with an actual project that is yours. And you have one project out of many, hopefully, that you've created. So what I want you to do for the submission tonight is I'm going to change this. Actually, let's just do this so you'll practice with this as well. That zip file or that folder that you created, just to make it easier for you, if you'll go to your repo that you just updated, just go to the clone or download and download your zip, which will add a number 2 or 3 to that file, to that master file. That's a file I want you to upload inside of this week 4 in class. Just upload it right in there. Okay? Make sense? So for your take home while you're doing that, and if you've done it, if some of you didn't get that done, don't worry, this is being recorded. You can do it at home. And I do want you to do the in class at home if you have to. And by the way, I did send a step-by-step on installing Mac OS on Windows. I also have, and I think it's using VirtualBox, but I also have it installed on VMware. And if you want me to, but it'll take a couple hours for this to happen, send me an email if you want me to help you get that set up, because I can use the steps I gave you. I have a fail-safe one which uses VMware. I know it works because I have a copy of it I kept updated. Either one, if you can't get it done yourself and you want me to help you, shoot me an email and we'll set up a time here in a couple Saturdays, and I'll help you install Mac OS on your Windows laptop. Sound good? So if you just shoot me an email, I can help you, show you how to do it, and I'll walk you through it, and we'll just come here on Saturday morning from like 9 to 11, 9 to 12, and we'll do it, if any of you want to do it. You don't have to do it, but if you want to, you can. So if your take-home assignment, you're basically going to create your own master detail app with those step-by-step Word document, and follow the 10 in master, the 2 steps in detail. This one, though, you're going to create a list of 10 items. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be movies, recipes, list of favorite cars, sports figures, bands, whatever, it doesn't matter. When the user clicks on the menu item, it takes them to the detail view for the website for that menu. And compress it, rename it to week4.zip, and upload it. There's a link here to the 4 in class that we just did, but you already have it in your repo on your end. Discussion, as always. So, between now and next week, on that in class that we did together, make sure that you follow the steps on the in-class repo. And remember, there's that document there that will help you. This is step-by-step one, the one we went over, the Word document. Boom. Gives you everything you need to do step-by-step. But the main thing to really pay attention to, besides the Word document step, is the comments in the 2 files, which are the detail view and the master view controller. And that's on your side too. You can actually, it's the same code you have on your repo now. Okay, make sense? So you can just use this existing code or create a new project, as I suggest doing, just to show you. That way you kind of feel for what it looks like from scratch, basically, which is pretty easy to do. I'll show you here while we're finishing up what a blank master detail looks without changing anything. I'll show you what it looks like. Make sure you upload that zip file while I'm doing this to your week 4 in class. And it doesn't have to be completed, just I wanted to see that you know how to not only do the GitHub together, but also upload that zip file. All right. Do what now?
You want to rename it?
No, just make sure you upload it. You don't have to rename it. No, don't worry about renaming it. Okay, so let's see here. I want to show you before we're done here what a blank, empty master detail project looks like. So you'll just, if you look on the overhead, I'm gonna select the master detail app. Go next, and I'm going to put my favs 4. Keep everything like it is. Rock Valley College, Rock Valley College Swift. Yeah, uncheck the 2 unit test. We don't want that. Click next, and on the left side, especially on the Macs in here, you want to make sure and double click on the desktop environment. And then click Create. And while I'm not going to make any changes here to this master detail, I'm going to actually just show you what it looks like running it as it is. Because what you'll see in this example is, remember we commented out the add button and the edit button is in this actual example one for master detail. But once you create a master detail and you do this assignment, this in class 2 or 3 times, it'll make more sense to you the more you do it and the more you play with it. Okay, so if you see on here, see it's got edit and plus. If I just hit the plus symbol, I can hit plus all day long. It'll just add in a whole bunch of menus, and then I can click on, and it'll just give me the simulation of what we're actually doing, in more, control, but it shows you exactly what it does. The edit does what you think it does. It can get rid of one, delete it, get rid of one, delete it, kind of like Notes does. So that functionality is all built in to the actual master detail app on the fly, which is kind of nice. But we disable the done, disable the edit, disable the plus, and we control that. But this master detail out of the box, as you can see, is fully functional to show you a master detail app and how it works. And then what we do is just tweak it and get rid of the stuff we don't want, which by default is this label. Get rid of that, and then get rid of that, and then put our own array for everything else as we saw earlier. And that's it. Questions? Okay. Well, again, if you want me to help you with how many with raise a hand is wanting to maybe install Mac OS on your Windows environment with a raise of hands? You're wanting to do that. Okay, it's it's about an hour time to do it. Okay, cool. Well, those of you that did raise your hand, try the steps I sent you, which I believe I put in the class conference. I'll show you here where it's at. It's in modules. I think I put it in discussion as well, but it's down here where it says install Mac on Windows. This is a step for High Sierra 10.13.6 on VirtualBox. And one of the things on the prereqs to note is that your computer matches those prereqs. It needs to be really a 64-bit computer, at least 4 gigs of RAM free. Sierra, the link's in here. VirtualBox, the latest version. And when you get to the part to where you're extracting the image, one of the key parts to watch for is the code here. Keep going down after you set up the system. Yeah. Follow all those steps. So when you do the command in the search box on Windows and run it, make sure you're running as admin. There's 2 options in Windows to run command prompt, either as normal user or as admin. You want to run as admin. If you don't do that, it will fail. But this command here, instead of copying and pasting it from this PDF, on that website or on this page at the top, there is links to the code right here. So when you download this PDF, you'll be able to click on this link, which will give you this code that you have to basically put in the command prompt. So you run as administrator, put all that code in the command prompt. All it's doing is going out to VirtualBox, and it's tweaking it and hacking into it to where you can install your Mac OS. Once you're done, you create a new account in VirtualBox, or once you start it up and hit the start button, you'll create an account in OS, start up just like that. But if that doesn't happen, if it doesn't work for you or whatever, don't worry about it. I can help you on Saturday. I have a full-fledged completed project on a drive I kept. It's VMware, it's not VirtualBox, but it works. And but I tell students on the size of your drive, I don't know what it tells you, and I can't remember what in there, what the size is. I recommend about 70 gigs free. drive space. I'll need that at least on the image I have. VMware doesn't take a lot of space, but you can run it off an external drive as well. That's how I run it on Windows machines. I run it off an external drive, and I have VMware on the Windows machine, and then the image is running off of the actual external drive. Anyway, and you're not breaking any. There's not any laws you're breaking or anything like that. This is something you can do ever since Intel came out with an Intel chip in Microsoft OS. It's just Apple's not going to freely give you that because they want you to buy their product, which makes sense. But, you know, and again, this is a virtual environment, so it's not really fast. It's a lot slower than a native environment. But if you don't want to come on campus or can't come on campus, and you can't afford to buy even a Mac Mini or any type of Mac really right now, this is kind of a go-between, really, to help you out. So, with that said, shoot me an email if you're interested. I will set up a time individually with everybody that wants to do it in the next few Saturdays, and we'll get it done. Sound good? Okay, well, we are done. If you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, see everybody next week. Hey, Curtis, would you mind coming up here for me? Thank you.